right, Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never order 365. Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast is back. And, of course, the Eagles making a bunch of, well, they're not making a bunch of moves. They've lost a bunch of players. We're going to dive into it right now with Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast, who joins us of Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Welcome back, Adam. What's going on, man?
Mike, good to be with you. Yeah, look, it's always good when the Eagles do something that's surprising, and we'll get into that, the Gardner-Johnson trade. Because, look, people look for us for answers. I'm looking at early numbers. We did an emergency pod, Jeff and I, and the number's pretty significant. So we appreciate the support and from your listeners at 7. So, Mike, look, it's funny with the Gardner-Johnson trade. Not only did I not see it coming, I'm definitely, I'll tell you when I'm surprised. I'm rarely surprised, but I was surprised. When other teams contact Jeff or I, say, what is Howie doing? What do you know about this? It's obvious that this is a pretty interesting decision that the Eagles made. And Howie Roseman, the general manager, made the trade today, which cannot be official till the start of the league year, and then the new league year, which is tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern. Then both Kenyon Green and Gardner-Johnson have to pass team physicals, but that's expected to be a formality. And you got the draft picks involved, but the big ones is the player for player. And as Mike, we told you about this on Monday. We appreciate the people who have been quoting us, the aggregators and whoever. The Eagles are trying to shed cash here. This is definitely a part of it.
Right. I mean, so let's get into that. They trade Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Now, of course, the initial knee-jerk reaction is, because they're not saving a whole bunch of money by moving on from him here, but enough that I guess they said, hey, let's do this now because they do have some contracts coming up down the road. But why Chauncey Gardner-Johnson today?
Well, Mike, they save $8.5 million. Well, let's put it this way: Gardner-Johnson's money is $8.5 million. Kenyon Green's is under $3 million, so they're going to save over $5 million in cash. Cash means more than anything to NFL teams. NFL owners don't get involved with a salary cap; they get involved in cash. Just as an aside, we focus on education and helping people learn the game. Always think cash, not cap, when players are moved. Now, when it comes down to salary cap numbers, sure, sometimes it does play a factor, but it's minor compared to cash. Now, when you look at Gardner-Johnson, he had a very good season. He got off to a slow start. That's the truth. He did. To the point where we were kind of like, we asked Greg Cosell. Greg works for us from NFL Films. And, Greg said, look, early on, CJ gave some plays, but then he got way better, and he actually he wound up having a very solid season. So it's not a performance issue. The other thing is, for the people who say he gets hurt a lot, Mike, he didn't. I don't think if he missed a game due to injury, I'd be surprised. I have to look into this. I don't think he got hurt last year. I don't think he missed a game due to injury. So it was one. But Mike, the bottom line is, it's not a performance issue. It's a money issue. The Eagles didn't want to pay his total cash. He has as we understand it, he's got a non-guaranteed option bonus coming up. $2 million of the $8.5 million fully guaranteed. That's not a big deal. $2 million guaranteed, but they weren't going to pay the cash. Everybody knows how much they like Sidney Brown, though he didn't really contribute much last season. Remember, he started the season not available, coming back from the ACL. He wasn't back until October. He'll be part of the mix. This is not Sidney Brown will be the start of the season and no competition. They'll have competition, whether it's through street free agency here or the draft. And I know, Mike, people are bringing up all sorts of stuff. It's social media, podcasts, Mike. Look, I'm not saying that wasn't involved in this. I can't say it was or wasn't. We don't know that. But we do know this. They are looking to shed cash. We told you about the Dallas Goedert stuff, Mike. I know Jeff and I, we broke a lot of information on our Monday morning show. I know Jeff went on your show yesterday and was quoted. They're looking to move Dallas Goedert's contract. They're looking to move his $14.25 million. That's a fact. Others are reporting some stuff like that, but not quite the way we're doing it. So the Eagles are trying to shed a lot of cash this offseason. It's not what we were thinking about a month ago, but we got wind of this over the weekend that they're going to go forward trying to move contracts. Didn't think it would be C.J. Gardner-Johnson, though, Mike. I know Jeff threw that out last week. He didn't know. It wasn't like he knew, but he did say, look, if if they're going to be trying to move some players, Gardner-Johnson's one that you can't dismiss, and voila, here we go.
Here we go, yeah. And they get an interesting player back in return. Has not had a lot of success at the NFL level, but Kenyon Green was a 15th overall pick in the draft, and he's a very young player, so kind of a pick that, they're hoping they can get him in their system and probably do something here. Do you view him as an option if Becton is not back?
Yeah, it would certainly be surprising if Becton is back, Mike. More on that on Friday's Football 4, but let's stick with what we know right now. Kenyon Green was drafted to be a long-term starter in 2022 by the Texans. Unfortunately, he suffered a shoulder labrum injury. He missed the entire 23 season. He suffered a left dislocated shoulder. Last season, he went on IR. When he came back off IR, he didn't get his job back. Our understanding is the Texans were looking to move him. The Eagles found they like Kenyon Green for the 22 draft. Jeff Stoutland, I'm sure not. I mean, it's Howie's called the general manager, but we know the way it works. Howie he doesn't want to force a player down anyone's throat, so I'm sure Jeff Stoutland put the thumbs up. So bottom line is Kenyon Green. We expect him to compete for the right guard job against Tyler Steen, and we'll see what happens there. Tyler Steen, let's not forget, Jeff brought this up, and I totally forgot about this. Tyler Steen, let's not forget, Mike, he hurt his ankle early in training camp, and that's when Becton went in and did really, really well, and I was stunned when I saw him. His first reps in not OTAs, more in training camp, I was stunned at how natural he looked, and look, it was a good story. He wasn't perfect. He had some games that weren't as good, but he was a nice story. But Tyler Steen's the guy they drafted to be the right guard, and he gets first dibs, but he's going to have competition now in Kenyon Green.
So there you go, a little intel on him. Let's go back to the safety spot real quick. Obviously, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's trade. We talked about why potentially, but Sidney Brown, Tristan McCollum. People forget they brought in a former first-round pick, Lewis Cine, as well. What's the plan at safety?
Yeah, see, Lewis Cine. Here's what I know. Brian Flores, I'm told, the DC for the Vikings didn't want him. He didn't think he fit his scheme. Didn't think he had the versatility that Flores wants. Seemed to his size as more of a box safety. We're going to be talking to Greg Cosell later this week, and we'll ask him kind of where he sees Cine playing, because I know Greg liked him coming out of Georgia. He had another Georgia player, by the way. We're also told with the Bills he actually practiced at linebacker on their practice squad, which is kind of interesting, Mike. Didn't think of him as a linebacker, but, hey, they run a 43 front. He was lining up on the strong side, so that's something to think about going forward. Tristan McCollum is a tall, 6'2.5", 6'3", deep safety. He's look, Mike. He's a fourth safety. Okay, that's third upside to be a 3. Blankenship obviously is a starter. He's turned out to be a really good football player. They're going to give Sidney Brown a chance, but we're expecting fully they're going to add another player, whether it's the draft or free agency. Early word is on safety, we think it's fairly deep, and they'll go from there. Reed Blankenship, by the way, is really underpaid. They extended his contract last year. They really need to adjust his contract. This is just he's really good. I'll be honest, Mike. He was way down on their list. We were told in coming out of the 22 draft when he wasn't drafted. He was actually on a secondary list. So I don't know if the Eagles know he'd be this good. He's just sorry for Harry Roseman and their scouting staff, and he's one starting safety. Brown obviously would be a favorite to start next to him, but Mike, here's the problem. He's a box safety. He doesn't have the versatility. He doesn't have the range. That's a concern here. So I'm not. I put that in pencil. I would not put that in pen that he's going to start.
All right, talking football at 4 with Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast. Let's go quickly to some of the things that happened yesterday. Kenny Pickett for a 5th rounder and Dorian Thompson-Robinson. What do we know about the reasoning behind that deal? I guess Tanner McKee is now the guy, or do they like DTR?
Tanner McKee's the guy. Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Mike, I'm going to be honest here. I know I'm pretty close to the people with the Browns. He struggled. It wasn't just when he played. He was a project. They knew this when they drafted him. I don't even know if he would have made the roster this year. So they found someone who wanted him, and we know the Eagles liked him a little bit because he was a multi-purpose quarterback under Chip Kelly. So it's a guy that they thought was intriguing. But he got pushed up a little bit too far for them last season. He wasn't expected to even contribute, and he had to because of Watson's injury and then some other problems with their backup quarterback. So, yeah, they were looking to move him. They didn't want him, so Tanner McKee will be the backup there. The Eagles may or may not even say in OTAs that Thompson Robinson's competing for the two. Tanner McKee in our 8 years this is our 8th season of doing the show. I cannot remember a quarterback since Nate Sudfeld, who nobody knew much about. Remember Nate Sudfeld? I don't know if you remember Nate Sudfeld. He was a phenomenon in 2017 under John D. Filippo, the former Eagles quarterbacks coach. Tanner McKee is this phenomenon inside their building. McKee will be the two. I mean, I don't care what anyone says. He'll be the two. That's going to happen.
All right. Options behind Milton Williams. What's that look like?
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one, Mike. Well, Moro Joe played a third of the defensive snaps around that third. He's first up as a 3 technique. He could play some of the 5, some of the 7. Milton had positional versatility. He didn't do all of them, but he can do all of them. And it's going to be hard to replace. We expect they're going to add someone in free agency later. They're not looking to spend a lot of money with the draft, and they'll go from there. Moro Joe has been a really nice story, Mike. He very limited in 2023 that he played, but last year, I don't want to call it a breakout season, but he did a really good job. So they'll add to that, and this is a guy, look, this is part of the secret sauce of Howie's draft since 2021 is just how they've developed these younger players that no one thought much of, and the coaching from Clint Hurt, who's a D-line coach, you got to give him credit. Obviously, Vic Fangio, Mike. Let's not underestimate the value of the coaching job that everyone's done here.
Absolutely, yeah. I think a lot of these decisions have been made because of the development of some of their players, and that goes to the next 2 guys. They lose Warren Burks, who was a backup player, but stepped in and then played. Maybe now Trotter, Rogers, and the corner spot. I think that one's going to be a little bit more interesting. So what are the breakdowns of those 2 spots?
Yeah, and they're very light at inside backers. So we know Zach Bond's starting at one spot. Dean right now is head of Van Sumer and had a major knee injury. That's really all they have. They're going to add to that. They've got Dallas Gann, who is a reserve future deal. He'll be on the mix just to push for a roster spot, but they'll add to that. That's another one that they could add it late in free agency for very little money. Particularly, by the way, later in May, when the signings don't count to the compensatory formula. It's a little magic trick that the Eagles and other teams have used. So they can do that. There are plenty of inside backers still out there. But look, it's Dean. What we're told with Nicoe, it's not that he can't play next season. They expect him to. They don't know when exactly he'll be back with Nicobe and to what level he could play. The patella tendon injury, Mike, is worse than an ACL, and we have to understand it. It's not what it once was when I first started coming to the league in the early 2000s. Medical science has improved. We had our friends from the Sports Med Brothers come on our podcast to explain that injury, by the way, to us. And you could come back earlier than you used to with that injury, but it's a major knee injury. You just don't know about Dean, and they will certainly add to that position.
Adam Caplan, everybody, from the Inside the Birds podcast, and you can check out their latest podcast and everything that's happening on their platform as the Eagles offseason slow to make moves, but they have been infiltrated just a little bit, and they made a trade. Gardner-Johnson is heading to Houston, and Adam Caplan breaking it down for us on today's Football at 4. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.